Hi, this is Shannon, and I'll be reading you selections from the Sandwich Enterprise, dated October 3rd, 2025. The weather for this weekend is Saturday, a high of 74, a low of 57, sunny. Sunday, a high of 75, a low of 60, sunny. So try to get out this weekend. It's going to be absolutely gorgeous. Upcoming meetings for this week are Board of Assessors, Tuesday, 4:30 p.m., Town Offices, First Floor Meeting Room. School Committee Finance Subcommittee, Tuesday, 5 p.m., Public Schools Central Office Conference Room. Planning Board Meeting Public Hearing, Tuesday, 6 p.m., Sand Hill School Community Center. This meeting will be broadcast live by Local Government Channel 9, Education Channel 8, and Public Channel 6, and streaming at www.sandwichtv.org. School Committee, Wednesday, 6 p.m., Town Hall. This meeting will be broadcast live by Local Government Channel 9, Education Channel 8, and Public Channel 6, and streaming at www.sandwichtv.org. Select Board, Thursday, 7 p.m., Town Hall. This meeting will be broadcast live by Local Government Channel 9, Education Channels 8, and Public Channel 6, and streaming at www.sandwichtv.org. Our first headline is No Grown Man Should Be in Love with a Teenager. Former Sandwich resident shares her story, by Taylor Frizzetti. After years of suffering from childhood sexual abuse, 23-year-old Hannah Kudelka has found her voice. Kudelka met James W. Slapy when she was 6 years old. He was the father of her friends who lived in her same neighborhood in Sandwich. Whenever we would have sleepovers at his house, he had his kids sleep in the bed with him and me on the floor next to them, like we always had to stay in his room. It was very odd, she said. Kudelka said that there were times when Slappy touched her while she was asleep, and she didn't realize it was real, but now as an adult she can see the red flags. I had slept over so much that I had just slowly moved in, she said. After moving into the home at 14 years old, Kudelka said that Slappy had a girlfriend at the time who was pregnant, and the night she gave birth is the night he decided to do the full assault. She said that Slappy took advantage of her hardships at home. He made me think this was normal. He tried to turn me against my parents in a way. He told me that my parents didn't care for me or understand me the way that he did, Kudelka said. He tried to tell me this was normal because he once had a 16-year-old girlfriend whose dad approved of their relationship. At 15 years old, Kudelka began spending more time at her parents' house. I was hanging out with a couple of friends my age, and he showed up at my house and was standing in the front yard calling and texting me, saying he saw me in my window as my mom was sleeping in her room. So she didn't see it, but my friends did see that, and were very confused, as was I, she said, adding that Slappy came to her house in response to not answering his texts. She said that after Slappy's child was born, he would often text her to ask her to watch his baby. Kudelka said that this was a tactic to get her alone in his home. Kudelka said that one of her friends began to wonder why Slappy kept texting her and why he was so adamant about her babysitting. I told her about everything. That night she wasn't responding to me, and she had gone to Officer Krista Cabral of the Sandwich Police Department, who was a school resource officer at the time as well, Kudelka said. According to Barnstable County Superior Court records, Slappy was sentenced to state prison for rape of a child for no more than 5 years on July 26, 2019. He was also charged with posing a child in a sexual act and possession of child pornography. However, Slappy was released from incarceration on April 29, 2022. His probation ended on April 29, 2025. I was completely shocked then and now, Kudelka said, regarding his early release. She said that she believes he was released on good behavior and mentioned that he was transferred to a rehabilitation facility shortly after being incarcerated, and this may have contributed to his early release. Neither the district attorney's office nor the Massachusetts Parole Board could confirm this information before press time. Despite a no-contact order, Kudelka said that Slappy allegedly contacted her through his daughter while he was incarcerated. However, she did not alert anyone at the time. Slappy's attorney, Thomas Yonts, did not respond to a request for comment before press time. "I was still pretty manipulated. I feel like I was actually brainwashed," she said. "No grown man should be in love with a teenager. There's no such thing. It's all tools of manipulation and control." Kudelka said that she has been bullied by both children and adults throughout this experience, causing her to move away from her hometown. "My whole life changed because of him," she said. Kudelka said that Slappy still resides in the home in Sandwich where her abuse occurred. The Sex Offender Registry Board lists 3 other sex offenders living at Slappy's address on Coventry Place. Kudelka said that she decided to share her story now in an effort to warn others and to encourage other victims. "When he first got charged and arrested, I was only 16, and it's taken me a long time to understand everything I went through and how manipulated I was. It took me a long time to realize it was not my fault," she said. "Now that I'm an adult and I work with children, I just think it's very important for people to speak up." Our next headline is Federal Workers on the Upper Cape Face Uncertainty as Shutdown Takes Hold, by Lynn Hutchinson. The federal government officially shut down at 12:01 a.m. on October 1st, following a deadlock in Congress over fiscal year funding. A House-approved GOP measure to temporarily extend current spending levels for 7 weeks was voted down in the Senate late Tuesday night. Senate Democrats opposed the bill, insisting that any short-term funding plan would need to include an extension of health care tax credits. While in its early days, the shutdown has sparked some operational disruptions across local agencies, research institutions, and community services. "This isn't partisan. This is a righteous fight on behalf of everyone who needs health care," said U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren on the Senate floor on Wednesday. "We're in this fight for Americans and for American health care." Determining what operations and services will continue has become harder to assess. Typically, contingency plans are centralized, posted on the United States Office of Management and Budget. Not this time. Individual plans are posted on agency-specific websites. Across the country, thousands of federal employees have been furloughed and entire government departments have been temporarily shuttered. While this has just been a few days since the shutdown began, the Upper Cape is already feeling the repercussions. The United States Geological Survey, USGS, Woods Hole Coastal and Marine Science Center has closed due to the lapse of Federation appropriation. Director Britta J. Jessen said in an email to the Enterprise. Jessen added that work that is essential for public safety and security will be performed as necessary. Suzanne Pellison, Public Relations Director at the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, WHOI, stated that WHOI is an independent, nonprofit research organization, therefore not directly subject to the government shutdown. She explained that although most of WHOI's funding comes from government grants and contracts, the institution currently has enough funds to maintain operations in the short term if the shutdown continues. The statement continues. The shutdown will disrupt some WHOI activities that depend on federal agency activity, such as ongoing scientific collaborations and administrative and logistical support. WHOI is making adjustments to its daily operations to accommodate the disruptions, Pellison said, adding that the institution remains committed to its mission of delivering rigorous and high-integrity ocean science that supports the lives, livelihoods, and security of people everywhere. The Falmouth Service Center, a nonprofit that has provided essential services such as food and financial assistance during previous government shutdowns, has not yet seen an impact on its operation in the early days. Executive Director Karen Delaney told the Enterprise in an email that if the shutdown continues, she would expect an impact in the following weeks. Back in 2018, it was after the first 2 weeks, when people began to miss paychecks, that we saw a significant direct impact, Delaney said. There are a significant number of federal employees in the Upper Cape area, so we expect to see an increase in need if the shutdown continues. During the December 2018 to January 2019 government shutdown, the Service Center provided food and financial support to employees of federal agencies, including USGS and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Northeast Fisheries Science Center. The Service Center also provided assistance to employees and families on Joint Base Cape Cod and at the local Coast Guard stations. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, New England District, will continue to carry out mission-critical activities that directly support the economy, including the operation and maintenance of waterborne navigation systems, wrote Public Affairs Specialist Sheandra Sterling in an email to the Enterprise. Sterling said, "There are no changes to operations at the Cape Cod Canal or our facilities in the region." Similarly, Steve Roth, a U.S. Coast Guard lieutenant commander, said in a statement to the Enterprise that the Coast Guard is continuing to execute its legally mandated operations. Other activities, Roth said, will be reduced or paused until funding is restored, which will limit our capacity to fully maintain mission readiness. Calls and emails sent to representatives on Joint Base Cape Cod were not returned as of press time. Our next headline is Sandwich abutters sound off at Gunter's Lane Workshop by Lauren Subry. Several Sandwich residents attended the second Mashpee Community Workshop for the potential Gunter's Lane wastewater cluster system on September 25th. Select Board Chairwoman Michaela Wyman Colombo told concerned Sandwich residents at the meeting that Mashpee has been in talks with Sandwich's town management and Board of Health regarding the system. Currently, the proposed access road for the cluster system at Gunter's Lane is a road that comes from Sandwich across the town line. We are in discussions with Sandwich about the access to the site and still evaluating other access options, said Mark Drainville, GHD Engineering Associate. Some challenges with the others include a vernal pool, the buffer to the vernal pool, Article 97 land, and difficult grades in some instances, but we are evaluating and continuing to look at other options. He said that the town is working hard to prevent the need to take anything off the site and for trucks to only travel the road for deliveries to the cluster system. As far as long-term operations, routine operations would require, at most, daily visits by a pickup truck. And then, once every 1 or 2 months, there would be a need to have a septic truck to remove solids from the site, Drainville said. Those would be very similar to what you could see from when a Title V system is being pumped, and then there would also be occasional deliveries to the site. The distance from the system to homes in Sandwich is approximately 200 feet to the small subsurface cluster system building. We're doing everything that we can to hide that, including grading and potential vegetation, he said. He displayed a test showing how far into the site you can see from Gunter's Lane and the hiking path from Notre Dame Lane, which comes off Pimlico Pond Road and abuts the wooded area off the cul-de-sac of Gunter's Lane. We had someone wear a high-visibility yellow jacket, something you can wear out on the streets so they can see you when the road is under construction, he said. You can see the person at 50 feet, but once you reach 100 and 150 feet, it becomes quite difficult. The trees in the area where the study was conducted will remain undisturbed, Drainville said. Sandwich residents weigh in. The second Gunter's Lane Community Workshop saw a crowd of Sandwich residents seeking answers about the project, which proposes an access road to the cluster system from Sandwich. Residents in the area of the system on the other side of town line were frustrated that they were not involved in discussions of a project that directly abuts their neighborhoods. What consideration and thought, if any, has been given to the Sandwich residents just north of the Mashpee line? It currently seems like there has been little to no consideration given to the Sandwich residents, Spencer Cleary, a Sandwich resident, said. It feels this way because none of your preliminary designs have even depicted Sandwich residents' homes and properties. I personally had to create my own plan showing the proposed system and came to find out that the system and the leaching field are on 3 of the Pierre Vernier Drive residents' well buffer zones. This causes a significant concern to me for the safety of the Sandwich residents just north of the property line. It is in Mashpee's interest to ensure the health and safety of the Sandwich residents. Clary lives on Pierre Vernier Drive, which abuts the access road Mashpee is proposing from Sandwich. I can give you a blanket answer and say we're not going to disregard the health and safety of any Sandwich resident, Town Manager Rodney C. Collins said. What I will say is I don't want to necessarily get into the specificity yet, because it would be premature relative to Sandwich. But I can say that we've had some productive discussions on a very preliminary basis, and at the appropriate time, there would be a lot more discussed and disclosed. Wyman Colombo said that Mashpee and Sandwich have been holding regular intermunicipal agreement IMA meetings. There has been discussions about this since, I believe, early since last fall, Wyman Colombo said. Subsequently to that, our representatives from GHD and Sandwich's engineers have been meeting to discuss. Clary asked who in Sandwich had been involved in the IMA conversations. Wyman Colombo said Sandwich's management staff and the Board of Health have been in the IMA talks. She added that the wells are an important consideration of the cluster system and that Mashpee is going through a state permitting process where all wells in that area are part of the state's review. Some of the Sandwich residents might feel that because they are on the well and Mashpee obviously isn't on a well, there is less of a concern on that, Clary said. It's going in that direction, but I feel that if I asked everybody in the room whether or not they would be concerned if there was a leaching field within their well buffer zone, I feel pretty confident that everyone would say, yeah, I'm pretty concerned. Drainville said that the state is going to review the project, and that includes wells and Sandwich abutting the proposed cluster system. The state asked the question, are you going to evaluate? We have to show the state in our evaluation through the groundwater modeling if we're going to contaminate, Wastewater Superintendent Jared Meter said. But they will evaluate and say, yeah, you're right, you're good, or no, it doesn't meet our standards. They are aware of it, and they are one of the first to point that out as a consideration. The state can give Mashpee different directions in the case that the project is not approved, Meter said. John Uhr Road in Sandwich also abuts the town line and the proposed access road for the wastewater cluster system. Resident Brian Clifford asked why Mashpee is traveling to a private road in Sandwich rather than via entering Gunter's Lane, where the pipes are. The reason we are proposing to come in here is because this site has many challenges, including the vernal pool. Some grading challenges here. It's very difficult to get in this way, Drainville said. There's already an existing curb cut here that passes into Mashpee. That's why we were looking at this as the most advantageous way to get into the site. Mashpee resident Kathy Jacobson of Sea Oaks Condominiums recommended that town officials offer a tour of a similar wastewater cluster system in the area. We are actually talking about that because there are several of the exact systems that we are proposing in town, Meter said. It's just a matter of securing the okay because I'm sure these neighborhoods wouldn't want a whole bunch of people randomly showing up. Jacobson said Sea Oaks Condominiums is located near a wastewater facility and she was also originally against the idea. At the time, Tom Fudala offered a tour of the Mashpee Commons treatment plant so that we could go and see if there was a smell and what it looked like, how it operates, Jacobson said. It really allayed my fears. It does not smell. Meter said that the wastewater department is looking for a location in Mashpee and confirming with the homeowners that a tour of the facility would be okay. That's actually a good idea, and if we can rearrange that kind of tour, we will with the proper authority. Collins said. Jacobson said it might help residents determine their vote in the October election. You would be surprised how many cluster systems there actually are in Mashpee, Water Quality Coordinator Ashley Fisher said. Save Mashpee Wakely Pond Alliance President and Mashpee Freshwaters Advisory Committee Chairwoman Susan Dangle also spoke at the workshop, referring to a flyer with misinformation that is making the rounds. Speaking about information that's going around that's not accurate, last week a flyer went around stating information about debt and the amount of debt that the town is taking on. None of it includes the financing at 0%, nor does it include any of the debt forgiveness of 28% on all of the sewer-related borrowing that we're doing, Dangle said. That's going around, and I think those are very scary numbers for people, and it's not given any context. Collins called the flyer factually inaccurate. It is filled with inaccurate information. I don't know who is responsible for it, but it is irresponsible, he said. If I knew who the author was, then I'd be more than happy to refute the specific information with factual data and information. But I can't because I don't know who is distributing it. Dangle asked what would happen next if the project was not approved. For example, she said, if it doesn't go through, what might befall the people on this map here? I'm thinking everyone has to go to an IA, Innovative Alternative System. That's way higher than the cost that we are talking about today. Collins agreed with her. I'm not an engineer and I'm not a professor, but what I would say is that is what I was thinking, he said. Fisher, Meter, and Drainville referenced the 1,000-foot buffer the town's Board of Health requires. Everybody in this area is within the 1,000-foot buffer for the freshwater bodies that the town has in its bylaw, that eventually you would have to transition to an IA system, Drainville said. Meter explained that IA systems today are generally approved for nitrogen removal, not phosphorus. When the phosphorus removal technology being developed is approved, he said he is optimistic that this technology will be factored into implementation because it is near a freshwater body. If a system fails, responsibility falls solely to the homeowner. There are a lot of different areas that can affect you financially, especially over a period of time, Meter said. Sandwich resident P.J. Dupuy asked why Sandwich abutters were not notified of the project. If you want to be a good neighbor, how come we were never told about this so we could attend the first meeting and get on board from the beginning, she asked. Collins said that while Mashpee is working with the neighboring town, Sandwich has not confirmed its position on the cluster system. That's a good question, he said to Dupuy. We have not notified the Sandwich folks yet because we don't want to put the cart before the horse. A similar cart before the horse situation played out over the summer on Gunter's Lane, when a miscommunication between the town and the surveyor led to the surveyor preemptively visiting the site, which is ultimately how some homeowners on the street first learned about the project. In the wake of that, Collins emphasized that the sort of miscommunication would not happen again. Collins ended the meeting by thanking residents from Mashpee and Sandwich for attending. On a personal note, I want to thank the audience for being polite, respectful, and civil. We've had 2 workshops and everybody has fit that description. There's been no disruption, no belligerence, no anger. Even if you have a difference of opinion or a legitimate concern, we want to hear them, he said. In a world today that is so much discourse, it's refreshing to see people actually come together and speak civilly, politely, respectfully, and express their views. On behalf of the town, I want to say thank you to the audience, not only tonight, but in the first workshop. The next workshop will be held on Thursday, October 9th at 7 p.m. in the Mashpee Public Library Conference Room. Headline is, MCAS scores return to pre-pandemic levels in math. High school scores dip, by Taylor Frizzetti. Recently released MCAS scores indicate that Sandwich elementary and middle school students have returned to pre-pandemic scores in math. However, high school performances have shown a dip in Sandwich and across the state. Assistant Superintendent David J. Quinn said that Sandwich was one of 63 districts recognized for returning to pre-pandemic test score levels, with the average scaled score for students in grades 3 through 8 exceeding 2019 performances. 48% of third graders met or exceeded expectations in math in 2019, whereas the state average for meeting or exceeding expectations was 49%. In 2025, 45% of third graders met or exceeded expectations, and the state average was 44%. In 2019, 44% of fourth grade students met or exceeded expectations in math, compared to the state average of 50%. In 2025, 57% of fourth grade students met or exceeded expectations, with the state average being 43%. Scores for fifth grade students in 2019 indicate that 54% of students met or exceeded in math expectations, whereas 48% of students in the state met or exceeded expectations. In 2025, 48% of fifth graders met or exceeded expectations, and the state average was 40%. 71% of sixth grade students met or exceeded expectations in 2019, compared to the state average of 52%. In 2025, 74% of sixth grade students met or exceeded expectations, whereas the state average for sixth grade students meeting or exceeding expectations was 41%. In 2019, 49% of seventh graders met or exceeded expectations compared to the state average of 48%. In 2025, 54% of seventh graders met or exceeded expectations, while the state average shows that 39% of seventh graders met or exceeded expectations. In 2019, 51% of eighth grade students met or exceeded expectations, compared to the state's 46%. In 2025, 44% of eighth grade students met or exceeded expectations, with the state score being 38%. Across the board from 2019 to 2024, Sandwich 10th graders outperformed the state in both English and math. However, high school scores have dipped in Sandwich and across the state in 2025. In 2019, 68% of 10th grade students met or exceeded expectations in ELA compared to the state average of 61%. In 2024, 67% of 10th graders met or exceeded expectations in ELA compared to the state score of 57% of 10th grade students. In 2025, 53% of 10th grades met or exceeded expectations in ELA compared to the state average of 51%. Math scores show a similar trend. In 2019, 63% of 10th grade students met or exceeded expectations, whereas 59% of students met or exceeded expectations at the state level. In 2024, 62% of 10th graders met or exceeded expectations in math, and the state average was 48% of students. In 2025, 46% of 10th graders met or exceeded expectations in math, and the state average was 45%. Quinn noted that the drop in scores is likely due to the state election approving of eliminating passing the MCAS as a graduation requirement. Although ELA scores for 8th grade students showed a slight decline from 2019 to 2025, they still outperformed the state. In 2019, 58% of 8th graders met or exceeded expectations in English, whereas the state's average was 52%. In 2025, 52% of 8th grade students met or exceeded expectations in Sandwich, and 44% of students met or exceeded expectations across the state. 8th grade math scores declined in Sandwich since 2019. However, so did math scores for 8th grade students across the state. In 2019, 51% of students met or exceeded expectations in Sandwich in math, and 46% met or exceeded expectations in the state. In 2025, 44% of 8th grade students met or exceeded expectations, whereas 38% of 8th grade students in the state met or exceeded expectations. In 2022, the 2022 fourth grade cohort showed dramatic improvement in math from 2021 to 2023. During this group's first year of testing in 2021, 30% of fourth grade students met or exceeded expectations in math, and in 2023, 60% of sixth grade students met or exceeded expectations. However, in 2024, 38% of seventh graders met or exceeded expectations in math, and in 2025, 44% of eighth graders met or exceeded expectations. Sixth grade students have consistently outperformed the state throughout the years. In 2019, 63% of sixth grade students met or exceeded expectations in ELA compared to the state's 53%. In 2025, 64% of sixth grade students met or exceeded expectations compared to the state's 42%. This trend can be seen in math scores for sixth grade students as well. In 2019, 71% of sixth graders met or exceeded expectations, whereas 52% of students in the state met or exceeded expectations in math. Sixth grade students still had strong math scores in 2025, with 74% meeting or exceeding expectations in Sandwich compared to the state's 41%. MCAS scores will be discussed during the school committee meeting on Wednesday, October 8th. Next article is Road Closures in Jarvisville, October 4th. Due to road paving in the Jarvisville Historic District on Saturday, October 4th, segments of the certain roadways in Sandwich will be closed. The closures will impact Canary Street, Church Street, Factory Street, Harbor Street, Jarvis Street, State Street, and Willow Street. Work hours will span from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Access to area homes are generally anticipated to remain open while the work is ongoing. However, access to specific homes may be delayed while work is performed in the area. Full access will be restored at the end of each workday. Motorists should expect delays and are asked to pay attention to signage and the guidance of safety officers. No on-street parking will be permitted. Residents must park vehicles inside driveways and at least 5 feet off the edge of roadways to allow the work to proceed. All unattended vehicles parked along roadways under construction will be towed. For properties where off-street parking is limited, residents and visitors should plan to park in the following areas, while not obstructing driveways or roadway access: on Church Street between Harbor Street and 30 Church Street, on Freeman Street between Canary Street and Harbor Street, on Factory Street between Jarvis Street and Liberty Street, on Willow Street between Church Street and the railroad tracks, and at the MassDOT train station at 42 Jarvis Street. This work is weather dependent and may be canceled and rescheduled without notice. Our next article is Columbarium Proposed for Town Cemetery by Taylor Frizzetti. As more people tend to lean towards cremation rather than burial, the Sandwich Town Cemetery may offer a new resting place for loved ones. The Select Board reviewed a proposal to install a columbarium at the cemetery on Route 130 during a meeting held on September 18th. Department of Public Works Director Paul S. Tilton and Infrastructure Manager Sean Harrington explained that there has been a cultural shift in recent years where individuals have opted for cremation rather than burials. According to the National Funeral Directors Association, the 2025 cremation rate is projected to be about 63%, and the burial rate is projected to be approximately 32%. A columbarium is a structure that contains individual sections or niches where urns are stored. The columbarium concept is really a way to provide a number of benefits, including saving land and being more efficient in the way that the cemetery could be managed, Harrington said, adding that each niche could hold 2 urns. Harrington explained that although costs for each process can vary, columbariums could offer potential savings, adding that full casket burials can be very expensive. He said that columbariums have been erected in cemeteries across the Cape, such as Moshwood Cemetery in Barnstable, Lower Road Cemetery in Brewster, and Great Neck Woods in Mashpee. With the plan still in its infancy, Harrington presented 2 conceptual plans, one that is similar to the Mosswood Cemetery. The first phase of this plan would be to install 3 columbariums with the option to expand and add 2 more. He also presented a scaled-down version with 2 columbariums being constructed in the first phase with potential to expand and install 2 more. Harrington said that he worked with Watertown Engineering Corps to get a sense of the cost. He said that for a single-sided 32-niche columbarium will cost about $23,000. Based on the conceptual plan and 3 columbariums in the first phase, a total of 96 niches, he said the construction costs would total about $100,000, with each niche costing about $1,041. Looking at the estimated costs, he suggested a niche fee of $1,500. It's more of just a conceptual idea, and as we move down the line, we will tighten up the proposal a bit, he said. Select Board member David J. Sampson asked if this update would be a capital expense. We have money in our cemetery perpetual care fund, so we would have to vote at town meeting to transfer money from that account, Town Manager George Bud H. Dunham said. Dunham suggested exploring the possibility of adding a crematorium to the cemetery, adding that he believes the closest crematorium is in Duxbury. I think it would help, not only in terms of revenue for cemeteries, but it also provide a service for the whole region, he said. Our next article is Falmouth celebrates Indigenous Peoples Day. The second annual Indigenous Peoples Day celebration will be held Sunday, October 12th from 3 to 5 p.m. in the Cultural Center of the Falmouth Museums on the Green. First Nations people will be honored with a proclamation by the Falmouth Select Board and a reading of a land acknowledgement that recognizes and respects the Wampanoag people as original stewards of what is now known as the town of Falmouth. The afternoon program will begin with a conversation and reflection on the significance of Native traditions with Chief Earl H. Mills Sr. and his daughter Roxanne Mills Brown. At 96, Chief Flying Eagle Mills is known as a traditionalist and someone who combines the preservation of Wampanoag culture with modern roles and a broad education. Chief Mills was the renowned owner and head chief of the Flume Restaurant in Mashpee, as well as a teacher and athletic director at Falmouth Public Schools until his retirement in 1975. With his late wife, Shirley Mills, he was instrumental in revitalizing traditional Mashpee powwows in the 1950s. Chief Mills has authored works documenting Wampanoag history and culture, including Son of Mashpee, Reflections of Chief Flying Eagle, a Wampanoag with the Elijah Man, Talking with the Elders of Mashpee, Memories of Earl H. Mills Sr., and Cape Cod Wampanoag Cookbook, Wampanoag Indian Recipes, Images, and Lore, with Betty Breen. Roxanne Mills Brown is the director of the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribal Education Department, whose work integrates culturally based language and traditions into local schools. Her emphasis is to strengthen and support Native students' identity alongside their academic achievement. She has worked to foster opportunities for tribal youth that embrace a holistic Wampanoag approach to life. Mills Brown formerly served with the Bureau of Indian Affairs before retiring from the Senior Executive Service in 2013. She holds a Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education from the University of New Mexico and a Master of Education in Administration, Planning, and Social Policy from Harvard University, Graduate School of Education. The conversation and discussion with the audience will be facilitated by cultural anthropologist Sandra Feynman Silva, Ph.D. Feynman Silva is the Falmouth liaison to the Barnstable County Human Rights Advisory Commission and is a Falmouth Town Meeting member. She has authored numerous articles and books, including Choctaws at the Crossroads, the Political Economy of Class and Culture in the Oklahoma Timber Region, which was named as finalist for the C. Wright Mills Award by the Society for the Study of Social Problems. May Alice Sweetgrass Baird will reflect on the importance of the Wampanoag Language Reclamation Project. Throughout the afternoon, musical interludes will be provided by Mashpee Wampanoag flutist Emma J. Mills Brennan and native Tlingit guitarist Kim Moberg. Indigenous artist Ocean Eversley will present artwork and poetry that honor cultural resilience, truth, memory, and survival. A closing friendship circle will conclude the celebration. The Falmouth Museums on the Green is located at 5565 Palmer Avenue in Falmouth. Parking is available in the lot on Catherine Lee Bates Road at the rear of the campus. Light refreshments will be served. The event is free. All are welcome. Our next article is Sandwich Fest, Porch Fest is this weekend by Taylor Fruzzati. Don't miss the music, food, and fun this weekend. The Sandwich Chamber of Commerce's Sandwich Fest and the Sandwich Arts Alliance's Porch Fest will be held on Saturday, October 4th. Sandwich Fest Street Fair. There will be a lot of action from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in downtown Sandwich Village and on Water Street. Sandwich Fest will feature 80 vendors offering unique handcrafted goods, featuring local businesses and more. There will be food truck court and beer and wine garden next to the Moxie House, which will welcome visitors during the event. A line dancing studio will perform for attendees, and Oceanside Animal Hospital will hold a dog parade. Streets in the downtown village area will be closed for the event from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. For more information, visit www.sandwichchamber.com/sandwichfest-2025.html. Porch Fest. Porch Fest will be held from 1 to 4 p.m. The event is bigger than ever this year with 12 porches and 24 performing acts. From jazz and blues to folk and rock, there will be a variety of musical acts this year, including Ebb and Flow Duo, Rumble Wagon Familiars of Cape Cod, and many more. Porches can be found on Main Street, Jarvis Street, and School Street, and new this year on Route 6A. Participating businesses include Beth's Bakery, Thatcher Ellery, The Seal, The Weather Store, and more. For more information, visit www.sandwichartsalliance.org/porchfest-2025.html. Our next article is PFAS Webinar Talk to highlight collaborative mitigation efforts. The University of Rhode Island's STEEP Superfund Research Program is hosting Understanding PFAS Together, Tribal Voices and Risk Communication. The fourth installment of its 2025 webinar series to help Cape Cod residents and other communities better understand and respond to per- and polyfluoroalkyl substances contamination, or PFAS, on Wednesday, October 15th from noon to 1 p.m. This discussion will spotlight collaboration between the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe and the University of Rhode Island STEEP researchers, focusing on culturally grounded communication and meaningful community engagement to address PFAS risks while honoring tribal traditions. STEEP, Sources, Transport, Exposure, and Effects of PFAS, is a University of Rhode Island-led science effort to address the human health impacts of PFAS in everyday lives. The 1-hour webinar will feature Jason Steiding, Natural Resources Director and Eagle Clan member of the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe, with STEEP's Emily Diamond, Associate Professor of Communication Studies and Marine Affairs at URI, and Laurel Shader, Senior Scientist at Silent Spring Institute, who will moderate the discussion. Partnership with tribal leaders is essential to creating meaningful community engagement and clear risk communication, said Diamond. Through activities such as fish and shellfish testing, community surveys, and youth programs, STEEP is working with the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe to balance traditional practices with efforts to reduce PFAS exposure. The webinar will share strategies developed through this collaboration and offer examples of how culturally grounded communication can inform decisions about health and cultural heritage. Recordings of the first 3 webinars on household exposures, PFAS in water and fish, and community health concerns are available on the STEEP website. PFAS are a class of man-made chemicals often added to non-stick, stain-resistant, and waterproof consumer products such as carpets and upholstery, rain jackets, cookware, food packaging, and even dental floss. They are also found in some firefighting foams used at military bases, airports, and fire training areas. Often known as forever chemicals due to their extreme persistence, exposure to PFAS has been linked to a wide range of health issues. Cape Cod's shallow sand and gravel aquifer, the sole source of drinking water for 700,000 year-round and summer residents, is vulnerable to contamination from septic systems, runoff, landfills, and other pollution sources. PFAS has been found in public water supplies across the U.S. and throughout Cape Cod. To register, visit the events website at web.uri.edu/STEEP/Cape_webinar/. For more information, visit URI's STEEP website. Our next article is Clothing and Textile Collection. The Falmouth Department of Public Works and Bay State Textiles will be holding a clothing and textile collection event on Saturday, October 4th and Sunday, October 5th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the parking lot in front of the Falmouth Senior Center and Gus Canty Community Center. Residents requiring assistance unloading their materials should come on Saturday between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m., when the trailer will be fully staffed by volunteers. Proceeds will benefit the Falmouth High School boys soccer team. Bay State Textiles will make a donation to the team determined by the total weight of materials collected multiplied by 0.6 cents per pound. By 6 cents per pound. This is a drive-up and drop-off event. Residents dropping off materials when the event is not staffed by volunteers must place their bagged materials inside the collection trailer. Materials must not be left on the site before or after the event hours. This event is intended to provide a convenient outlet for residents needing to reduce excess quantities of textiles and clothing. Residents are always encouraged to donate clean, seasonally appropriate clothing in good condition to local thrift stores. Materials collected at this event and in long-term collection boxes at Falmouth Public Schools, K through 6, are carefully sorted and sold for reuse as clothing or repurposed or recycled for other consumer uses. In November 2022, Mass DEP added clothing and textiles to the waste ban, mandating that residents and businesses no longer dispose of clothing and textiles in the trash. Clothing and textiles are not accepted in curbside recycling carts. Since 2022, Falmouth's 9 collection events have diverted a total of 46.3 tons of clothing and textiles from the waste stream. All materials must be clean, dry, and bagged. Plastic bags are preferred since paper bags are not waterproof and may rip. Accepted items: clothing, pants, shirts, socks, pajamas, undergarments, and coats. Out of season, out of style, and worn or torn materials are acceptable. Footwear, dress shoes, winter boots, work boots, sneakers, flip-flops, and cleats. Household linens, sheets, towels, blankets, drapes, non-foam pillows, and small throw rugs. Accessories, gloves, belts, scarves, bags, hats, and stuffed animals. Unacceptable items: mattresses, mattress pads, foam products, cushions, throw rugs larger than 2x4, carpet remnants, and materials that are wet or contaminated with mold, bodily fluids, insects, soy, oil, or hazardous substances. For information about textile recycling, visit www.falmouthma.gov/1253/textile-recycling. Next article is Cape Cod Healthcare announces October blood drive. Cape Cod Hospital and Falmouth Hospital are in urgent need of blood donations. Numerous blood drives are being held across Cape Cod in October to benefit Cape Cod Healthcare Cape Cod and Falmouth hospitals must have at least 1 week's worth of blood on hand at all times. Since each unit collected or purchased only lasts 42 days, it is a constant challenge to maintain sufficient supply. All the blood collected at Cape Cod Healthcare blood drives help our families, friends, and neighbors. All donors to CCHC blood drives in October will receive a Wendy's gift card. CCHC will organize blood drives across Cape Cod with locations in Upper Cape, including Friday, October 3rd, 11:10 a.m., 5:30 to 5:30 p.m., Spalding Rehabilitation Hospital, Cape Cod, 311 Service Road, Sandwich. Wednesday, October 15th, 10:40 a.m. to 5 p.m., St. Margaret's Catholic Church Hall, 141 Main Street, Buzzards Bay. Monday, October 20th, 10:40 a.m. to 5 p.m., Christ the King Church, 3 Jobs Fishing Road, Mashpee. Monday, October 27th, 9:40 a.m. to 4 p.m., John Wellesley United Methodist Church, 270 Gifford Street, Falmouth. To make an appointment for one of the drives listed above, visit the blood donor portal at srt.capecodhealth.org/donor portal. Obituaries. Lothian K. Park. Lothian Care Park of Sandwich died on May 30th, 2024, at age of 68. Other obituaries. Lonergan F. Bonzek Jr., 88, of Falmouth, died on September 29th. Elaine Champani Gomes, 77, of Falmouth, died on September 30th. John R. Eaton, 90, of Pocasset, died on September 27th. Susan E. Glenn, 75, of East Falmouth, died on September 24th. Patricia B. Harris, 86, of East Falmouth, died on September 18th. Catherine J. Letty, 94, of North Falmouth and Taunton, died on September 27th. Wanda L. Mazzola, 61, of Mashpee, died on September 14th. Karen McHugh, 76, of East Falmouth, died on September 25th. Cheryl P. Raymond, 60, of Falmouth, died on September 25th. Francis A. Sampson, 78, of East Falmouth, died on September 28th. Arts and Culture. First article is, Sandwich Library is participating in Booktober. 25 libraries in the Old Colony Library Network are participating in the annual Booktober library crawl during the month of October. The crawl is designed to encourage residents of the South Shore and Upper Cape to visit and explore libraries spanning 3 counties and 25 cities and towns in southeastern Massachusetts. Included in the network is the Sandwich Public Library. Participants will receive paper passports to present at each library they visit, which will get stamped as proof of the visit. Participants who visit a minimum of 5 libraries on the list and get their passports stamped during the month-long time frame will be presented with a special certificate. Passports can be found and printed directly from the crawl website, malibraryroadtrip.com/OCLN. Passports are also available for pickup at all participating libraries. For more information and review the full list of libraries participating in this year's crawl, visit the Old Colony Library Network Crawl website or call one of the participating libraries. The Sandwich Public Library has several events planned during the month of October. Check the library website at sandwichpubliclibrary.com for details. And the next article is, Final Sandwich Artisans Show is set for October 11th. The Sandwich Artisans will host their final juried arts and crafts show of the season on Saturday, October 11th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Sandwich Public Library. The show will be filled with new and returning artisans and will take place rain or shine. Booth fees from the show will be donated to the library. $74,000 has been raised to date. Artisans shows will return to the library in 2026. The Sandwich Public Library is at 142 Main Street. And the next article is Mark Chester to speak at Camera Club meeting. The Upper Cape Camera welcomes Woods Hole photographer Mark Chester for a talk on his book of photography, Road Show Anthropology, on Wednesday, October 8th at 7 p.m. at the Falmouth Arts Center, 137 Gifford Street in Falmouth. In Roadshow Anthropology, Chester finds inspiration without ever leaving the road, observing interesting, humorous, and quirky things simply by observing life through the windshield of his car. Chester is a self-taught photographer with an impressive resume. His work has been published in newspapers nationwide, including the Washington Post, Los Angeles Times, Boston Globe, and Christian Science Monitor. His work is in the permanent collections of museums and universities across the country. The evening will convene with socializing at 6:30 p.m. The meeting will begin at 7. The public is invited. Additional information is available through the club's website. Next article is Natural History Museum will present cautionary tale of whale entanglement. As part of the Silver Science Speaker Series, the Cape Cod Museum of Natural History will present Spinnaker, an entanglement story, with Center for Coastal Studies Marine Education Director Jesse Metchling on Thursday, October 9th at 1 p.m. Spinnaker is the Center for Coastal Studies' 36-foot preserved humpback whale skeleton, which was installed in the center's Hebert Marine Lab in 2017. Spinnaker was an 11-year-old humpback known to the center since she was a calf who died after suffering many fishing gear entanglements throughout her short life. Metchling will recount the story of Spinnaker, which holds a message of long-term scientific studies, conservation, and disentanglement efforts, as well as the serious threats that marine animals still face. Tickets to the talk are available at ccmnh.org. Museum admission is an additional fee. Next article is Highfield Hall hosts blues performer Michelle Evil Gal Wilson. Michelle Evil Gal Wilson and her blues band will perform Sunday, October 5th at 4 p.m. under the tent at Highfield Hall and Gardens. The concert is co-sponsored by Falmouth Jazz. Known for her strong, distinctive voice and deep knowledge of the blues, Wilson has been singing the blues around Boston for over 40 years. Like many blues and gospel artists, she grew up learning to sing in church. The Boston native had early career success, winning a Battle of the Blues Bands competition in Boston and ultimately earning a spot in the National Blues Finals in Memphis. Her career took off when she put together a tribute show to the music of Dinah Washington, Etta James, and Ruth Brown, three iconic vocalists who created music that told women's stories with wit and humor. Wilson adopted the stage name Evil Gal, a reference to the song Evil Gal Blues, made famous by Dinah Washington and Aretha Franklin. What started as one set became 5 Evil Gal albums, performances in 16 countries, and appearances on many other recordings, including the title track of the 2016 Handy Award-nominated 50 Shades of Blue on Delta Groove. She also hosts Morning Vibe, a daily jazz radio show on VICN Public Radio in Worcester. Tickets are $50, $40 for museum members. Purchases through the museum's website. Well, that is all that I have time for. This is Shannon, your reader, hoping that you have an absolutely wonderful, wonderful weekend. The weather is just gorgeous. Thank you so much.